Hey, my name's Lorna and this is my channel Thread and Yarn. It's a place where I talk about my sewing, knitting and natural dyeing and building a homemade wardrobe. Today I thought I'd try out a slightly different type of video. It's one I've been doing on my Patreon and I'm going to do on my Patreon once a month, but I thought I'd just see what you guys thought here as well. So in this video I thought I would show you a little bit about what I'm doing on this day. It's going to involve a bit of knitting. I am also going to head to the plot and plant out the last of my naturally dying dye garden plants, which I'm very excited about. So I thought I'd show you what they look like, how I'm planting them, and and also what's not gone quite right, because I did plant some out recently and they've been a bit munched. But yeah, so it's going to be a bit about natural dyeing, a bit about knitting. I'm also, if I get time, I'm going to cut out a Clo Bias skirt because I've been wanting to make one in a particular linen for quite a long time. So yeah, if you fancy a cozy video with a bit of natural dyeing, gardening, knitting and sewing, if I manage to get all that done in one day, we'll see. Yeah, then join me, grab a little project or something and a cup of tea. And I hope you enjoy the video. I get 1 or 2 days a month that I can take off now, thanks to my lovely patrons, and I use it to create more content like this, and also to work on my fibre projects. So I have been doing a couple of different things over the last few days that I've taken off, but today I'm focusing on planting out the last bits of my dye garden at the allotment. And I'm working on a couple of knitting projects as well as a knitting pattern design. And if I get time, I would quite like to cut out a Clo Bias skirt as well, which is a skirt I've been wanting to sew for a really long time. I've made the pattern before, but in this particular fabric. So that's what this video is going to be about. It's going to be pretty relaxed. I'm just going to show you what I get up to today. I feel very privileged to have this day when it comes around to work on these projects, so I'm super grateful for that, and I hope that the Patreon content that I'm able to produce during that time is enjoyable for you if you are a Patreon member. If you're not, that's where I post more detailed content about natural dyeing. It's where I put all of my knitting patterns are on there for free. There's a discount on my sewing pattern. And I like to just share little seasonal thoughts throughout the year about what's going on in the natural world in terms of what I'm planting and growing and what I'm using to dye with. So if that's your kind of thing and you'd like a little bit of sort of slow crafting and growing, then the link is in the description. So it's about 7:30 and it's quite sunny outside and quite warm, so I want to get down to the plot early-ish because I want to work in my polytunnel first, which is where I'm growing my indigo. But I've got a cup of tea. I'll show you the nice side of the mug. I've shown you these before if you've watched my channel, but they're by a little potter here where I live called Little Earthquake Pots, and she creates these beautiful designs. So I'm enjoying my cup of tea. I'm also currently wearing something I don't think I've shown you before, purely because it's my dressing gown. So it feels kind of strange to open up a YouTube channel in my dressing gown, but it is a me made and it's a really nice one. I wear it more than any other me made because I put it on every morning and I thought, why not show you? So it's the Merchant & Mills Sunday gown. It's got quite a nice lapel. It's got ties here and then also inside down here. I've made one for my partner as well in a different linen. The only thing I would say is, I had to add a lot of length on for him and I wish I'd broadened the shoulders more. It's got a drop shoulder, but they kind of sit on his shoulders, even though I made it for his chest size. So I'm not sure if it was actually supposed to be unisex, but he likes it. But yeah, it's in this, I think it's called wood end linen. And I really like it. It does kind of gape open here a little bit, so I've always got something underneath if I'm out pottering around in the garden. which I quite regularly do. And in fact, when I first made it, I was crouching down by the tulips. It must have been a couple of springs ago. And a little blackbird landed right next to me, and I must have been really still and camouflaged in this linen because it didn't see me. It was like right by my foot. That was really special until it realised and panicked. So I'm going to head to the allotment for a bit, but I've just been doing a little bit of knitting. I quite like to start my day with knitting when I can. So it just feels like it sets the tone for me a little bit. So I just thought I'd show you a couple of projects. So last night I cast on the Bifurca tee, I think, I think it's Tetty Knits. I've had a mind blank. I'll pop up the her name. But it's a really lovely like colour work t-shirt that's all of her patterns are kind of botanically themed, and this one's no different. So I really love that, and I picked these two colourways. So it's Dyer Natural yarn, which I haven't knitted with before, but feels lovely and kind of reminds me of Brooklyn tweed, like loft. It's the same kind of weight. This is the Ulysses. And I'm using this, it's like salt and pepper, the translation, pauvre et sel or something. I can't do any French pronunciation. As the base, it's kind of this warm grey with like slight light browny flecks in it. And then this potimarron, which my partner looked up and means red curry squash, which I'm very excited about because I love growing pumpkins, and I've literally just planted some out of my plot. And it is that exact colour, so yeah, they know that's squash. That makes me very excited. So I cast it on. It's looks like quite an interesting construction. It starts around the neckline and then kind of splits out, hence the name Bifurca, I guess. But it's starting off with a twisted rib, and I'm loving working with the yarn, so I'm very excited about that. I want some nice summer knits that I can wear with like loose linen trousers and skirts. I think it'd be a really nice one to pop over dresses as well. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. I've also been doing a bit of knitting. This is in my naturally dyed yarn. It's got a cuff of white onion skins and then a bundle dyed skein, which I knitted one of my fallow sock samples in, and I've got this left over, so I'm just making another for the pair. I really love these colours together. I think that they just... I've put some red onion, some white onion in here, which makes this sort of lovely gold colour. So I think they work really well together. So I'm knitting this one just for me, and I'm very excited. There's bits of black hollyhock in there as well, which I've put the flowers of as part of the bundle dye, which is what I'm going to plant out later. So I'm going to have my cup of tea, and then I'm going to head around to the plot, and I'm going to show you what I've done so far and what I'm going to plant out. Just do a little bit of knitting, I think, first, while I finish my tea. Why not? So yeah, I'd love to hear if you've got any projects like this, if you're growing your own dye plants, or if you've got an allotment garden and you'd like to grow your own food as well. I think it's something that I've been growing my own food now for maybe 6-7 years. Only in the last couple of years would I say we managed to get through pretty much the whole year, because we've got quite a good size allotment. In the way that I quite like dyeing wool, and like I love choosing my base. I get it from a UK mill from their local sheep, and there's even got a QR code I can scan where I can see which flock it came from, for one of their ranges anyway, which I absolutely love. So I see it from there, and then I get the undyed fleece in. I control all the process, so I know exactly what's happened to it. I know what minerals I've used to mordant it, and that they're okay, and I can dispose of it safely. I use rainwater as a lot of my dye water, and then I use a lot of plants from my garden. And it just feels really nice to have like oversight of that whole process, and I think that's what I really like about growing my own food as well. Which is, you know, a luxury that I've got that space, because sometimes allotment wait lists are crazy. I used to live in a city and the allotment wait list was like 10 years or something, which is just madness. So I'm quite lucky around here. There's tons of allotments. Hello and welcome to my polytunnel on my allotment. I thought I would show you a little bit about what I've got going on here. I like to come here on my day that I've got off and work on my veg growing and also on my dye plants. So in this allotment I've got lots of San Marzano tomatoes, which are a plum tomato variety, which I grow exclusively for milling and making into sauce for pizza and pasta and things like that. And then I have also got some Japanese indigo, which you might just be able to see the top of. I'll show you some close-ups as well, and there's also some at the back here. And it's my first time growing Japanese indigo. Oh, slipping. Growing Japanese indigo, certainly on this scale. And although I've got maybe 14 plants, so it's not massive really. But I'm really excited because I love dyeing with indigo, and I'm quite excited to produce my own. So it's quite an involved process, but I thought I'd make a little video as well and show you how I do it, from sowing to planting to processing it and then to dyeing with it. So that is a video that's going to take quite a few months, probably the best part of a year. So I've started filming for that already, obviously, because my indigo's in the ground. So maybe you can look forward to that in the winter. So I'll just show you a little bit around here and some of my dye plants, but today I'm spending the morning getting things ready at the allotment. I've got quite a lot of weeding to do. I'm putting out the last of my dye plants and vegetables, and I'm just doing a bit of work just tidying up some little weeds. I'm just going to tidy up the polytunnel while it's still nice and early because it's really warm today. I think it was only forecast to be 17, but it's so sunny. So it'll hot up in here quite quickly, so I'm going to crack on. So here are my tomatoes. I'm taking off any little side shoots like this. And this is an indigo plant. I need to give them a bit of a water, but they grow quite nicely with tomatoes because they like the same kind of environment. They want to be warm and sheltered because they're not a native plant. Well, they're from Japan, these type of indigo. And I think they'll like it in the polytunnel. We've put the polytunnel up recently and I'm really proud of it. So I probably posted about it on my Instagram stories if you saw that. But we've got a little greenhouse at home, but I just wanted a polytunnel for indigo and for growing sort of more plum tomatoes because we like to eat our own food year round and we can't grow enough tomatoes at home. And I like doing plum ones because you can store them. But I'm going to pop up a rope system for these as well because I find it much better than bamboo for them to climb up, so I'll show you that when I've done it. I normally plant the tomatoes on top of the rope because it holds it in really securely, but I needed to get the tomatoes in before everything else was ready. So what I'm going to do is pin down the excess length, and then next year I'll plant it on top of this. So I've pinned it down quite securely in here, and I'm just going to cover it up with some soil. They don't last forever because it's natural material in the ground, but I would still rather do that because I think it's much better than canes, and it'll all compost anyway. And then I've got this nice taut rope, and what I'll do when this tomato's a bit bigger is well, I might lean it on it a bit now, I'll start winding it around here and then all the way up. And it's just a much more natural way for the tomato to have some support than be tied in. So I planted some dye plants here a couple of days ago. Annoyingly, loads of them have gotten slugged, so I had about 20 over here, but they've really been, massacred. Some of the cosmos are left, which is good, but I'm going to sort this area out. I'm going to weed it a bit, and I've got a few replacements, but I'm just going to do a bit of weeding, and I'll show you what's around here. So I've got some ladies' bedstraw here, which is you use the root and it can create lovely reds if you're lucky. It's my first time growing it, so we'll see. I've got really heavy clay soil, which is super sticky in the winter and then goes to rock hard bricks as soon as it's sunny. So we'll see. I did, for a lot of them, mix in some compost and some grit to make it a bit more well draining. But I've got some, so this is my dye area, and I've also got some herbs as well. So I've got valerian here, which you can use the root for. I've got some nasturtiums. I've got a lot of bindweed that I need to get up. This is angelica, which is lovely, and you can use it as a herb and also in puddings. Wild chamomile for tea. I've got some marshmallow, which is exciting. Never grown that before. And then dotted around I've got these Dyer's Cosmos. These should create nice bright orange colours, so they're all quite small because they've just gone in, but I'm going to do a bit of weeding today. I'm going to mulch them with a little bit more compost, I think, and give them a good soak, and hopefully that they'll bounce back a bit from the slug attack. They're looking a little bit sorry for themselves. This is one of the better ones. My Coreopsis had a near total wipeout, so yeah, it's hard to know what to do for like natural slug repellents, really. At home I do kind of know what to do. At home we put nematodes across the garden, which are like a natural parasitic predator of slugs, and I've had hardly any slug damage, whereas here at my allotment I didn't, and I've had lots. I lost my whole crop of I lost my whole crop of peas, about half of our brassicas in days after planting them, and 70% of my dye plants, so that was a bit sad. So next year I'm just gonna, because nematodes are quite expensive and it was a bit of an experiment, I'm definitely gonna buy some and put them down on the plot. We just put them in the watering can and then you pour it over and then they get to work. Just because of the amount of wet winter and wet spring we've had, it's just been like uncontrollable numbers of slugs. Normally I would just accept, okay, they'll have 20-30% of whatever I plant, and that's okay. I just plant a bit extra knowing that. But this year they've just taken entire crops of things. So yeah, let me know if you feel my pain, or if you've got any other good tips. So I've been weeding my dye flower patch. There's a lot of bindweed all through it. Bindweed is one of those perennial perennial weeds that just lasts and lasts. I'm going to do some more no-dig method of getting rid of it over winter. So I'm going to put some cardboard down and then some compost, and maybe sow some green manure on that as well. We'll see, just to keep smothering it and keep weakening it. But at the moment I'm just pulling it as much as possible and trying to get out as much root without disturbing the soil too much. But it's everywhere here. And I have hedge bindweed as well, not just field bindweed. So hedge bindweed is a bit different. It just seems to go a bit deeper and it's a bit more, it grows up more and twists around things. Anyway, so I've got that area more weeded. I've taken out some peas, which yeah, I've got some, but it was really slugged. So I'm going to put some dye flowers in that patch. I've got some more black hollyhocks to plant out, which I use to do the speckles of this yarn, and I really like bundle dyeing with it. So I'm going to put some more black hollyhocks out. There's a train going past. Have any of you grown dye plants or have an allotment where you grow your food or things you use to dye either wool or fabric with? Because I'd love to hear about it. I've done it for quite a while at home, but this is my first time bringing it out to the allotment, and I'm mixing it as well with different herbs, which I think just feels really nice. I've got this patch over here that I've shown you a little bit of. It's also got an apple tree and this big chamomile bush, so it just feels really appropriate to have the dye flowers there. It's sort of that kind of classic potager, almost like medieval herb garden feel. That's what I'm going for. But yeah, I'd love to know if you have experience. I'm gonna, when it's all up and growing a bit more, I might do a bit of a video of it and talking through about planning your dye garden and like what to sow when, if that would be useful for you, or if you'd be interested in that, then let me know, because I think it's quite a nice accessible thing to do. Dye plants don't take up too much room, some of them anyway, and you can just fit them in your borders even. I've had some woad just planted in my front garden. It does go a bit mad in the second year. It has bright yellow flowers that go all over the place, but the bees love it and not much else is flowering that early in spring, so I like it. But yeah, I might do a bit of a video of sort of planning your dye garden. I've got more content about that as well on my Patreon for my members if you're interested. I'm doing a sort of dye plant of the month, talking through a seasonal dye plant that I've got out in my garden and or my allotment, and also some instructional videos about how to use them. And I am slowly building up a natural dyeing guide where I'm just writing down different things about the steps of the process. So yeah, if that's of interest to you, there's a lot more of that on my Patreon. I'm just going to enjoy some tea. I really love sitting under here. I made myself a little pergola for the shed, like a little roof that projects forward from the shed, and it's a honeysuckle. And it's just really lovely whether it's really sunny or if it's raining. And it's a nice place to sit. It's quite an exposed site, gets quite windy, as you might be able to see. But I've got this lovely honeysuckle here, which is flowering now, and the bees are buzzing, and it smells incredible. So I'm loving sitting by it. So I'm just gonna have some tea, and then I'll plant out some dye flowers. So I've got these black hollyhocks, and I'm gonna pop them in here. There's some others in the bed as well. See, I've just dug in some compost for them, and I'm just going to pop them in here. Lots of bindweed root getting out when I see it. I've got a courgette here, so I'm putting it about 1 metre away over here because the courgette's going to get pretty big. It's hard to tell at the beginning, but they get pretty chunky. And I'm just going to gently firm it in. Give everything a good water. This calendula as well in my herby section. Got some wild chamomile, which is looking like it's starting to bud, which is great. I love having chamomile tea in the evenings. Weather's on the turn a bit now, so I'm going to pack up and go home. But I just wanted to show you what I've done with my herb and dye patch before I go. So I've got my marshmallow here, which is looking very healthy, and then I've planted out these 6 hollyhock, black hollyhock, which I'm really excited about. There's a courgette in the corner there, there's some chamomile, there's my apple tree and squash bed here, and I've planted some sorghum bicolour here, which you can grow and harvest the sort of shoots from when they're dried to make little brushes and brooms and things, so I'm excited about that. I've got some Hopi sunflowers, and I think that's it for dye stuff, other than my indigo, which is in the polytunnel. But I've got lots of corn. I've planted some more squash. Squash is what I'm most passionate about growing, to be honest. I love it so much. I'll show you some pictures from last year. I just think it's such a good food source. You get so much from each plant. They do, you know, for loads of dinners, and I'm never tired of veggie chili. So yeah. So yeah, I'm going to pack up and head back home, have some lunch, and then I'm going to probably do a bit of dyeing and a bit of sewing. Here's some yarn I've been mordanting for a while. I mordant it in alum, which is aluminium sulfate, because it's a protein fibre. This is my 100% Corriedale fleece silk yarn. I'm actually talking to a different mill, also in Yorkshire, about a grey base one. I want to make sure it's nice and robust though for sock knitting without any nylon or plastic in, because the Corriedale's great. So I'm looking at blends with Jacob, and I think you pronounce it like Cheviot, and Jacob's quite a nice strong fleece, because I think having a grey base for the autumn and winter will, I'll be able to create some really nice moody deep colours. So this I mixed up outside. It was outside for a couple of days. You can put it on the hob as well and heat it gently. So I've done that with all the doors and windows open and everything. And I'm just going to take some out, and I'm going to pop a couple in a onion dye bath, just an exhaust. So it'll be quite pale, because I just want to create a slight tonal base for the bundle dye that I'm dyeing up for my fellow sock release, which is going to be next week if all goes well. And I thought it'd be nice to have a few together. I took a load to the festival, the Great British Fibre Festival in Devon last weekend, and people really love the speckledy ones. I gave them all, or all of them, gave different wildflower and herb names. So I had some fun ones, and generally some herbology names. There's one called Tincture, which was quite popular, Nightshade, Vervain. But I think what all the other ones are, Achillea, Rosemary, which was actually from Rosemary in my garden. So the dyes are in the pan, I've had some lunch, and I'm going to start cutting out my skirt. So this is the linen. I think it's called Aurora, maybe. It's from Muchney Mills. I've bought it last summer, and to make it like an autumn coloured skirt, kind of soft autumn, I guess. Although I'm sure I'll wear it year round. But I never got around to making it. Things just got a bit busy. So I'm going to cut it out today. It's quite a quick make. It's one I've made before. So I'll see how far I get today. I do have a little family thing on Sunday, and I quite like to wear it to that. But we'll see. But yeah, I really like the warm tones in here against the cool ones. I think it's going to be pretty. I think it's going to go with the green rota cardigan I just finished as well. The only thing about cutting out on the bias is it feels like it wastes quite a lot of fabric because you're not cutting it out along the grain, which is nice and straight to your selvage. You're cutting out sort of diagonally, because then the threads of the fabric sort of pull down diagonally and create that nice sort of drapey fitted shape that you get with bias cut things. But I will have quite a lot of scraps, and I always use them. So some will probably be going in the Patreon summer solstice boxes, and some will probably be going in some little quilting projects that I've got lined up. The other slightly tricky thing, which I forgot about this project, was that I do not have enough fabric to make it properly. I forgot that when I bought it, that's what happened. So what I had done is I bought this amount. I can't remember how much it is, maybe like 1.2 meters in length, and then I had bought an additional, I can't remember if it's a remnant, but it's a 0.5 meter. So I can't get the second skirt, the back skirt, out of this. So what I was going to do, my plan was to cut one front skirt out, and then the back I will cut from 2 pieces, and I will do my best effort to pattern match it, because yeah, cutting on the bias is not very economical with the spaces around them. So yeah, I have pressed this, but you know what linen's like. I'll pin it now and I'll cut out the front, and then I will piece together the back from this bit and this section. I have actually done that a little bit with the Leah bias dress, another Soften Studio pattern. I'll put a picture up, so you can patch it. You just sort of take a bit of time to think about the pattern matching. There's the front. It's going to look really pretty having this check on the bias. Right, now the pattern matching madness. So I folded the pattern piece in half. This is the centre back seam, well, my new centre back seam. And I've rolled it out sort of 1 centimetre for 1 centimetre seam allowance. So I've tried to pattern match it up to the side, but I'm working with what I've got. But it's going to be most important that I pattern match this, sort of say that's the left back to the right back. So I'm making a note of where I'm cutting that out there, so that with my spare piece it can look exactly the same, hopefully. I'm just laying the piece I've cut on top of the piece I'm gonna cut, and just making sure that at least the horizontal, no they're not horizontal, but that these lines line up. They won't go down this way because I don't have enough fabric and I'll run out of space to put it, but at least that sort of cross across the back will line up, hopefully. So yeah, we'll see. Either way, it's all going to go together, and that's what I get for trying to be economical on fabric and not buying enough. Okay, it's not too bad. It's lined up in this direction, not in this direction because I didn't have enough fabric, but I'm happy that it's lined up in one direction and it's got this red line meeting. I had to sort of think about the seam allowance as well. I know that's not a perfect join, but given my very limited fabric, I'm happy enough with that. And the same with French seams. So you first sew it wrong sides together, which always feels quite odd. And then you give it a good press, which is what I'm about to do now. And then you fold it over and you do another line of thin seam allowance, and then it's right sides together. And then you get this nice enclosed seam. I've done a video on French seams if you want to see sort of in more detail how to do it. So I've sewn my side seams together with the French seams, and this is the skirt so far. It's it's a really nice fabric. This is the back. It's not perfect. It's my fault for not buying enough fabric. But it's got the right sort of diagonal lines. So I think roughly looking at it, I think that's fine. And then the front obviously is all good. The side seams I'm pretty happy with as well. I think that's a fairly decent pattern matching for a side seam check on the bias. So I'm happy with that. So it gets gathered, well, not gathered, but it has an elasticated waistband and a drawstring. So it's quite wide at the moment, but it is brought in. But I haven't cut out the waistband yet, so I'll do that in a bit, or probably tomorrow, which is Saturday. I'm going to hang it though as well, because bias things, I always hang them before I hem them. Well, that's just good practice because they really do drop and lengthen. So I'm going to hang it, and then I am going to chill out, I think, with a cup of tea. It's probably about 4:30 now. I'm going to catch up on some of my emails and yeah, let this hang. One last thing as well, I wanted to show you a little pattern that I'm working on. So I'm helping out with the Tetbury wool show in October. I think it's October the 19th, which is in the Cotswolds. And I'm designing them a little sock pattern that everybody that buys a ticket will get. And I thought it'd be really fun for it to be sheep themed, seeing as the Cotswolds is a historic centre of wool and it's a wool show. So I'm designing a little colourwork sock that involves sheep. This is one of my swatches. I've done lots of different sheep to decide. This one ended up looking a bit like a goat, so I've made a couple of changes and played out around with some patterns as well. And this is the sheep, apart from I'm going to shorten his legs, pretty much, that I will use. And I'm really enjoying this sort of pattern along the top. So it'll probably be something like that with these sheep underneath. This is very difficult to do. Maybe I'll just show you when it's done. But I'm also going to dye up some colourways to go with this for the autumn, and I thought it'd be fun to sell some sock sets at the show where the colour of your sheep varies depending on the breed. So you could have like the Jacob colourway or the Shetland colourway or the Cotswold colourway. They can have different faces and different fleece colours. I think that'd be really cute. So I'm working on this at the moment, which I forgot to show you earlier. So that's everything for this video. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was a bit different, taking you out of this room and into the garden or into the allotment. But I hope you enjoyed seeing my dye plant plans and the other bits that I'm growing there. And yeah, let me know what you think of this different video. I'm doing a lot more of these, well, I will be. I've done one already on my Patreon. I'm going to be doing one a month so that you can see the sort of progression of the dye plants and of the dyes and the different projects in a bit more detail. So join me over on Patreon if you're interested in that. I've got a couple of tiers. One is called Threads, and that gets you access to the patterns that are available, all the videos and articles, and extra video, ad-free videos of versions of what's on YouTube. And there's also the seasonal gift tier that's currently sold out. I limited it at the current price. I like to spend a long time making all the boxes as lovely as possible. But yeah, that's all my updates on that. I will do another video soon, a little bit of a June update, where I'm going to talk you through some of the projects that I've finished, hopefully show you this finished skirt and my cardigan, and I will also show you some clips from the sewing retreat that I just did, which was wonderful. Had such a lovely time meeting the lovely people that came and having a nice sewing weekend together. So I will share more about that, the festival, and my June and May projects in the next video. But I hope you enjoyed this one. Please let me know in the comments what you thought and what your plans are. If you've been planting and growing and making, I'd love to hear about it. Bye.